Welcome to today's video where I'm going to be doing some comparison swatches to VR Fire Opal from the Mothership Bronze Seduction palette. I have a couple of comparison videos up already on my channel with some other special shades from McGrath if you want to check those out. Now this is a big shade, so it makes it a very unique formula, especially in comparison to a lot of these other shadows. So let's get right into it. So here is how VR Fire Opal picks up. It's got a very beautiful PC texture. It is very sheer, can be built up just a little bit, and it is just ultra sparkly with really fine pigment. And it is going to be the first shade here. Definitely swatching it a little bit heavier. So you can see it has a little bit of a base. I would describe the base as a light brown that is orange leaning, but it's of course going to depend on your skin tone. And it does have a green flash straight on with also a lot of lighter gold in there, and it shifts to purple, but it's very subtle. But it's a very dimensional shade. You can just see the sparkle throughout it. So the first shade I'm going to be comparing it to is Chandelier. This is from Clionadh Cosmetics. Now texture wise, of course, pretty different, but I think it's very similar in terms of color and in terms of sparkle level. And here's how that one picks up. So you can see definitely a little bit of similarity there. And if anything, I do think that the base on this one is just a little bit lighter and straight on. It does lean a little bit more blue versus green. And you can see the lighter base in comparison, which is why I wanted to swatch the VR Fire Opal shade a little bit stronger, just so you could really see the base in there and the difference. And Chandelier does shift to much more of a obvious purple. Next shade is Carving, also from Clionadh Cosmetics. And this one is more similar not only in base, but in the fact that it's going to be more green. So it's definitely got more of that green to it, but you can see the base is leaning just a bit of a darker reddish brown base, and the tone of the green is ever so slightly different. It's almost leaning a little bit more just slightly blue as well, not quite as blue as Chandelier, but not quite as green as VR Fire Opal. So there are some of those differences. And it also shifts to a purple, which in this case is really obvious, and it's very vibrant purple. Next shade is Starlight from ShineBySD, and this one is from the Eternal collection. I feel like this one is going to be pretty similar because of just, you can see the green. And this is how it picks up. It does lean, it has a lot of gold in it. But I feel like that one is actually almost the most similar. I think the base is a bit more subtle compared to VR Fire Opal, but the green is very similar, as well as the sparkle level. The only other point of difference is that the shade does have different sparkles throughout it, which makes it for sure a little bit different. I actually think that one is the most similar. Next shade is Swamp Goddess, and this is from Half Magic Beauty. This one is also very smooth, however it is squishier in the pan, and it just doesn't quite have the same level of sparkle, but it is very similar. I think it's, if anything, a little bit more of a foresty bright green versus this one being just a little bit more like a yellowy green. But definitely feel like there's quite a bit of similarity there. The base is also extremely similar, a little bit more subtle on Green Goddess. Next shade is Sif or Sif from Oden's Eye, spelled S-I-F. I feel like this one's not going to be that similar, but I wanted to add it into this comparison. And this shade, similarly to the Half Magic shade, is a little bit more on the squishy side. And in its base, it's much more subtle. I don't really see as much of that orangey base to it, but I think color-wise, straight on, it's very similar. And the last shade is Glisten from Glaminatrix Cosmetics. I don't think this one is going to be as similar because it is a little bit more of a dimensional shade with different colorful flecks throughout it. It's also not as sheer, a bit more opaque, but it does have quite a bit of sparkle to it. And I was just wondering, the base is definitely a lot more like taupey leaning versus warm yellow orange. And here they are all together. The shift in the ShineBySD shade is different. So the ShineBySD shade is the most similar, and so is Green Goddess from Half Magic Beauty. So I'm not really sure which one to put on the eyes, because I feel like between the ShineBySD and the Half Magic Beauty shade, they have slight differences, so it's kind of hard to know which one will look the most similar on the lid. There is one more shade I wanted to show for comparison. It has been long discontinued, and it is from Topshop, the shade Changeling. And it's definitely a little bit different. However, in terms of formulation, I feel like this is spot on to any of the bake shades from Pat McGrath. I have a couple of different shades from when these launched. I believe there was 5 or 6 shades. I think I have 4. And this just feels so similar. It did fall out, and you can see it has that mesh on the bottom, so it is a bake shade. Here's Changeling, and here is VR Fire Opal. But the way that they feel and the way that they look is spot on. I really wish we could see more shades like this. So texture formulation wise, effect wise, just the way that it looks once it's kind of spread out, smoothed out, literally the same. However, the tone is definitely different. Changeling has more of a blue flash straight on, but the base is definitely very similar. If anything, a little bit more of a orange brown. But look at the way that they glisten the same way. So I used the matte from the palette. I used this one in the crease and this one on the outer corner. And on this side, I'm going to put Fire Opal. And first, I'm just going to put down some Fahrenheit Pixie Epoxy because it is a very piecey, dry texture. I'll definitely have some sort of fallout. So I just want to put down some tackiness. Picked it up on the Refer 21 brush, and I'm just going to tap it all over the lid. As for the shade I'm putting on the other eye, I'm going to do Green Goddess because I do feel like it's the most similar. It's not as sparkly though, so I might layer the ShineBySD shade over it just to kind of see. So here's what that one looks like. Same thing on the other eye. Swamp Goddess, not Green Goddess. I kept calling it Green Goddess for some reason. So again, picking it up with the same brush, I did wipe it off in between. Actually, it does have quite a bit of sparkle once it's on. It's definitely a little bit, okay, I can see a little bit of a difference. I see that it's a little bit more bright green in there. Definitely a little bit more brighter green. It's not really translating in the monitor, but it is a little bit more green. It's definitely noticeable, but not overly noticeable. I picked up a little bit of Starlight from ShineBySD, and I'm just gonna kind of tap it on. See if I can maybe... No, I still think you can see a lot of the green from the other shade. So they're definitely a little bit different from each other. It makes me want to use the ShineBySD shade on its own. So I'm actually going to wipe this off and do the ShineBySD shade on its own. Here's what this one looks like, and here's what this one looks like. You can just see there's a little bit less green in here. Back with a clean slate, again going in with the Fahrenheit Pixie Epoxy, especially for this ShineBySD shade since it is a bit of a drier formula. And because I have hooded lids, things tend to just fall right off of them. So going in with Starlight, here's how that picks up. Super sparkly. I feel like this is gonna be it. Oh yeah, it still looks a little bit... I feel like texture sparkle wise on the lid, it looks very similar. But I definitely see it's again a little bit more true green for sure. I see a little bit more of a true green, but I feel like it's less green than the Half Magic Beauty shade. I feel like these look very similar. Again, definitely a little bit more of a brighter green. I kind of want to layer on, let me just put on a little bit more just with my finger of the Pat McGrath shade. Just kind of really foil it on there. Yeah, it's just a little bit less green. So my recommendation would be the ShineBySD shade if you want something very similar in terms of texture, sparkle. Color-wise, it is a little bit more green and the shift is a little bit different. I do think it will overall satisfy your tooth for that shade, especially because that palette is so expensive. So I hope this video was helpful. If you enjoyed this kind of content, I will put up some of my other similar videos to this one up on the screen. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.